next thing we're going to work on with our type lesson is using a gradient. So first things first, let's go and grab our D3. Oops, I got so many tabs open right now. We need D3 from our Google Classroom. And once again, it's just a blank one that's going to allow us to practice using our gradients. So a gradient, by definition, is simply a blend between two or more colors. And so what it does is it just creates a visual effect that you could use for backgrounds. You can use it on text. It just adds, like I said, some visual dimension to your graphic. So to find your gradient tool, you actually need to hold down your paint bucket tool. So if you click and hold down on your paint bucket tool, you'll see the gradient tool. It's a little square that transitions from black to white. And so that gradient tool will change your options bar up here, and this is where we're going to start working with. So if you drop this open, what you have is a variety of different gradients. Now, for the sake of showing you our different types of gradients that Photoshop offers, I'd like you to either use the blue, yellow, blue, or the orange, yellow, orange. Okay, there's lots of other ones to try later on, but I want you to use either of those two. So I'm going to use the blue, yellow, blue. And then I want to talk about these options, the 5 little icons right next to that drop-down list on your options bar. So the first one is simply a standard linear gradient. So what you can do is actually just click and drag, and that will create a gradient that goes from blue to yellow to blue. Now, the longer you drag, the bigger your gradient will be. The shorter you drag, the smaller your gradient will be. So you can actually go up and down, you can go at an angle, you can go from one side all the way to the other, and you'll get a really stretched out gradient. But linear just means that the middle color will obviously form a line. Our next gradient is the radial gradient. So with this one, what's happening is you are getting a circle. So just like last time, the farther you stretch, the bigger that is. The shorter you stretch, the smaller your little gradient will be. Our next one is the angle gradient. So this one just depends on which way you decide to pull in order to get a different look. Again, shorter is going to give you more of one color, and a longer pull will give you less of one. So this is another one you just kind of have to play around until you get the effect that you want. Our next one is I believe it's called the reflected gradient. Yes, so if you click on this one just gives you 2 linear gradients. It's not my favorite, but perhaps you have a vision for it and want to use it. If that's the case, absolutely, go ahead. And then last but not least is our diamond gradient. So this one, again, will create a diamond based on how you pull. So the smaller it is, the smaller your gradient will be. The larger you pull, the larger your gradient will be. So those are just a few different types of gradients that we have here. Obviously, you can also change the opacity. So if you want it to not be so opaque, you can transition it down, and then it'll be a softer gradient on top of that. The other thing I was going to show you is that you can, I'm going to bump my opacity back up here, what it looks like with some of those other options. So a lot of people like the rainbow. So now you can see what that looks like with different types. The reflected one is kind of cool. And you can see what it looks like with just the standard linear as well. So some cool different things to try with your gradients. In our next lesson, I will show you how to create a new gradient.